I'm back. Road Rants for Black and White Sports. So, as you guys know, I'm a lifelong 49er fan. A lot of interesting dynamics have come out of the loss to the Chiefs, okay? And one of our longtime supporters on this channel and on our two personal channels, Road Rants and John Matrix channel, Alexis Siri, was pushing that the Niners should sign Tom Brady and get rid of Jimmy G. She's not a Jimmy G fan at all. Okay. I like Jimmy G a lot. But in the last 2 days, an interesting scenario has come up. Both Colin Cowherd and Pro Football Talk this morning brought up Tom Brady to the 49ers. Okay. You know, both seem to think it's a perfect fit. Look, Tom Brady is a lifelong 49ers fan. He grew up a 49ers fan. And that's Silicon Valley, Giselle. In a lot of ways, it does make sense because you got a great running game. You got a great defense. You got a top 1 or 2 tight end in all of football. You got a really good slot receiver and a fast one in Emmanuel Sanders. You got Deebo Samuel. It does make sense in some ways. Alexa said, well, wouldn't you give up Jimmy G, or I would give up Jimmy G for Tom Brady? My thing is the age issue. Okay, Tom's about to be, 42, or he is 42, versus giving up a quarterback that's in his mid to late 20s. Okay, and look, I think there is one scenario in which I would consider being on board. If I could get Tom on a 2-year contract with an option for a 3rd year, then I think you do consider it, okay? Because I think Tom's got plenty left in the tank. And today, as we said, do I think he's a better quarterback than Jimmy G? Yes, okay? From if no other reason, the experience standpoint, right? Plus, he would infuse that powerful Kyle Shanahan offense with the other powerful offense in the league, Josh McDaniels. Okay, bring his principles into the fold. And famously, John Lynch called the Patriots about Tom Brady, not Jimmy Garoppolo. That's how they ended up with Jimmy G, was he called and asked Belichick if he wanted to trade Tom Brady. So we know John Lynch, the GM, likes Tom Brady a lot, right? Who doesn't? Okay. I know Bill Simmons was pushing for Jimmy G to win the Super Bowl because he was like, it's a partial win for Pat's Nation if Jimmy G wins. Okay. Now, I don't know, because one of the scenarios that bothers me is Jimmy G can't win the big game. Look, go back to the Rams game this year. He converted 2 3rd and 16 throws, and they won that game, okay? Do I think there's more than, say, 4 quarterbacks in the league that could have went in to Seattle and won the last week of the season with Seattle trying to win the division? Jimmy G won that game, and he played pretty well, okay? That game versus New Orleans, in New Orleans, he played lights out. I think the problem is, and this is the scary part, people view Jimmy G as they view Kirk Cousins, and I think Jimmy G's a much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. I really do. And in fact, statistically, completion percentage, pass yards per attempt, and touchdowns, Jimmy G is top 5 in the NFL this season. Okay, and people think, well, you can plug and play any quarterback in Kyle's system. Really? Because we were 0-10 before we plugged Jimmy G in and then went 6-0 with Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard. And by the way, I think both those guys got potential. But It was an automatic switch. You could just see the ball move down the field better with Jimmy G, right? Yeah, he missed 2 throws. I still say that supposed push-off by George Kittle that got called back. Look, I think that's where the game in the Super Bowl turned. And I think we're losing sight of the fact that how many quarterbacks in the league score and come back down by 10 against the Niners? Realistically, with the right weapons, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson. So 3. I think there's literally 3 quarterbacks where you even have the possibility of having lost that Super Bowl the other day, which means essentially Jimmy G would beat every other quarterback in the league in that that's where people have to be realistic about quarterbacks too. People are wanting Jimmy G to be Patrick Mahomes when when Patrick Mahomes is arguably the best quarterback in all of football. That's sort of a hard ask. Honorable mention to Tom and to Russell Wilson and to Aaron Rodgers. But, Patrick Mahomes went out and scored 28 points in one game in one quarter this year. Okay? It just, look, did Jimmy miss some passes? Yeah, he did. Okay? But on a 1-year rental, no, I don't think you go to Tom Brady. On a 2-year with an option for a third where you could draft a quarterback, I think you could consider it then. I do. One of the things I like about watching Pro Football Talk is that Chris Sims is a 20-year best friend of Kyle Shanahan. Chris Sims was the University of Texas quarterback. Kyle Shanahan was a University of Texas wide receiver. They were roommates. To this day, they're best friends. Like Chris Sims saw Kyle after the NFC Championship game. They hang out. They know each other's wives real well. They are literal best friends. So I get a lot of insight about Kyle from watching Pro Football Talk because Chris Sims knows his offense inside and out, et cetera, et cetera. The one scenario that should scare everybody is Kirk Cousins to the Niners. I think people think Kirk Cousins is better than Jimmy G, and I don't. There's not a world in which I believe that. No way. You will never. I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a slightly higher ceiling Andy Dalton, and I wouldn't touch him with a 20-foot pole. I'm sorry, he's a below average quarterback, Andy Dalton, and I think Jimmy G he's in that. I think Jimmy G is a top 10 quarterback in football right now. I really do. Start naming off 10, really and truly, because if you think about it, start talking about the ones you would put ahead of him. Gardner Minshew, no. Ryan Tannehill, no. Kirk Cousins, no. Kyler Murray, sorry, you're too young, no. Baker, no. So you get the point. You start looking at your alternatives, and you get the point. Yikes. There's some bad scenarios out there. You tell me what you think about Tom Brady to the Niners. I was against it until I really thought about the fact that if we could get him for more than one season, then I think you got to take a look at it. If it's only one, I'd pass. If it's 2 with an option for a third, I'd take a look at it. Yeah, I would take a look at it because it gives you time to figure out post-Brady scenarios then, okay? Because Jimmy certainly ain't hanging around. I don't blame him. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.